Good afternoon and welcome to North Penn High School Natatorium for this afternoon's Suburban 1 National Conference Patriot Division swimming meet between the North Penn Knights and the Council Rock Indians. Our first event this afternoon is the 200-yard medley relay. In lane 4 for North Penn, we have Steve Fleming doing backstroke, Dominic Szabo doing breaststroke, Chris Craig doing butterfly, Steve Pasquale doing freestyle. In lane 2, Ricky Schillo doing backstroke, Tim Cronston in lane 2 doing breaststroke, Eric Bacocci butterfly, and Jonathan Fakish freestyle. Out in lane 6, Steve Miller doing backstroke, Chris Houchins breaststroke, Dan Glancy butterfly, and Jim Thompson freestyle. Along with Ralph Asher, I'm Mike Schlotterbeck for North Penn Television. It's nice to have you this afternoon. And it looks like, Ralph, typical fashion, the Knights are out ahead.
Yes, they certainly always start off their meets going right out. Don't let anything down on them.
Okay, that was Steve Fleming getting an early lead in lane 4, and Dominic Szabo hits the water. Steve Fleming out in a 26.92, 25.36. That was Ricky Schillo with a 26.92 split. We have Szabo in lane 4, and in lane 2 is Tim Cronston. Outside in lane 6 for North Penn is Chris Houchins. The Knights thoroughly in command. Hopefully we'll see this much of the afternoon. Our officials this afternoon are Pete Bunning, the starter, and Frank Kristiniak and Wayne Hellman, the other two officials. That's Chris Craig with the butterfly leg in lane 4. In lane 2, Eric Bacocci, and in lane 6, Dan Glancy. And that'll be Steve Pasquale finishing off for North Penn in lane 4, and about to hit the water in lane 2 is Jonathan Fakish. And Pasquale finishes his lap. Should be a pretty good time. We have a close race for second place. The Knights finished first with a time of 1:40.55, a good time for the Knights. And the team in lane 2 finishes second with a time of 1:45.58. Council Rock's A team finishes third with a time of 1:46.29. And finishing fourth in lane 6 is the third North Penn team with a time of 1:55.08. Finishing fifth is Council Rock in lane 5 with a time of 1:55.09. And finishing sixth in lane 1 for Council Rock with a time of 2:05.86 is the Council Rock C team. That gives us an early score of 12-2 in favor of the Knights. Our next event this afternoon is the 200-yard freestyle. What do we have for lane assignments for North Penn, Ralph?
In lane 4, we will have Jeremy Bergman. In lane 2, we will have Jim Glancy. And in lane 6, there will be Justin Finslaw.
Okay, for Council Rock in lane 1, we have Eric Strone. In lane 3, Garrett Lowe. And in lane 5, Andy Copeland. What can we look for in this race, Ralph?
You want to look for a very good start and the swimmer pacing himself. The swimmer's going to have to go through 7 turns in this meet.
As Ralph said, this is an 8-lap race. Not exactly a sprint, but not exactly a distance event either. Once again, the Knights' record, 9-0 overall, 6-0 in the Suburban 1 Patriot. For Council Rock, their record is an overall 10-1. So we should have a good meet this afternoon. The starter's ready. And we'll look for Bergman to take an early lead here as he's one of the top swimmers in District 1. That's Jeremy Bergman in lane 4. It looks like in lane 3, Garrett Lowe challenging for second place along with Jim Glancy from North Penn in lane 2. Out in lane 5 for Council Rock, that's Andy Copeland. Bergman turns his first 50 with a split of 25.29. Bergman in command, but it looks like the next 5 places will be contested. Looks like we have a dead heat. 2nd through 5th place are all pretty much even going into the 3rd turn. Bergman in command as he hits the halfway point. Looks like Council Rock has some strong swimmers, Ralph.
Yeah, This is not very typical to have a good heat between North Penn swimmers and their opposing swimmers. Normally, North Penn will go out ahead, and they'll stay ahead for most of the race.
Bergman thoroughly in command. Jim Glancy starting to take charge of second place in lane 2. For Council Rock, that's Garrett Lowe holding on to third place, but not by much. And Bergman turns for his last 50. Jim Glancy in second place. And Bergman hits his last turn, looking good. Jim Glancy in second, and it looks like Garrett Lowe should hold on to third. That's Justin Fanslow out in lane 6, challenging for fourth place. Him and Andy Copland looks like they're going to have a battle for fourth. Jim Glancy finishes second. Bergman finishes first with a time of 1:48.22. Glancy second with a time of 1:53.68. Lowe finishes third with a time of 1:56.11. In fourth place in lane 6 is Justin Fanslow with a time of 1:57.31. In fifth place out in lane 5 was Andy Copland for Council Rock with a time of 1:57.97. And in sixth place for Council Rock on lane 1, Eric Strome with a time of 2:08.74. Knights finishing first, second, and fourth in that event. And that makes our score 24-6, entering the 200-yard individual medley. Who do we have swimming for North Penn, Ralph?
In lane 4, you'll see Steve Fleming. In lane 2, you'll see Chris Craig. And in lane 6, you will see Ryan McGrath.
And for Council Rock, in lane 1, we have Jim Minatola. In lane 3, Bob Carmody. And in lane 5, Mark Casalia. Once again, this is the 200-yard individual medley. Each swimmer swims 2 laps of each stroke. 2 laps of butterfly, 2 laps of backstroke, 2 laps of breaststroke, and 2 laps of freestyle. This event customized for the versatile swimmer. The North Penn Knights head coach is Bill Bartle, a swimmer here at North Penn from 1974 to 1977. Bill also swam at the University of Maryland, coached the North Penn Aquatic Club in the mid-'80s, then moved to Reading High School where he's the head coach, and he's returned and he's in his 4th year here at the high school. The starter's ready. And they're off, and we should look for Chris Craig to take charge early, along with Steve Fleming. But it looks like Carmody out fast for the Indians. Carmody looking good early for the Indians in lane 3, leaving the Knights in his dust. I have a feeling we'll see a comeback here, though. Craig and Fleming turn even at the backstroke. Fleming, one of the best backstrokers in District 1, should make up some ground here. That's Fleming in lane 4, catching Carmody quickly. Craig trying to stay with the field in lane 2. We got a good race on our hands here, Ralph.
Yeah, this is not very typical of North Penn swimming. They fell real behind, but now they seem to be catching up fairly well.
Fleming with a strong turn, takes the lead. Carmody hanging tough, though. Out in lane 6 for the Knights, Ryan McGrath in 4th place. And Fleming and Carmody turn even halfway through the breaststroke. Good strong pullouts from both swimmers. This is quite a race, folks. Looks like Carmody has a slight edge still. And Carmody maintains a slight lead going into the final freestyle legs. Quite a race on our hands, folks. Fleming and Carmody, neck and neck. Carmody with a slight lead going into the final turn, but Fleming closing fast. They're about even, Carmody with a slight lead. It's Carmody and Fleming down the stretch. We have quite a race here, folks. Carmody and Fleming to the end. Carmody with a slight lead. Fleming closing fast. And Steve Fleming, Carmody, Bob Carmody from Council Rock finishes first with a time of 2 minutes flat .75. Steve Fleming almost caught him there at the end with a time of 2 minutes flat .96. Those are both tremendous times, tremendous times. In lane 2, Chris Craig finished with a time of 2:05.34, good for second place. In lane 5 from Council Rock, we had Mark Casalia finished fourth with a time of 2:15.17. In fifth place from North Penn, we had Ryan McGrath finish with a time of 2:15.77. And in sixth place for Council Rock was Jim Minatola, who finished sixth with a time of 2:22.56. That was quite a race, Ralph.
Yes, it certainly was. This was definitely not typical of North Penn swimming. They got behind, they did manage to catch up, and it was a good race, but it was not very normal for them to fall behind at all.
That makes our score after the individual medley: North Penn 32, Council Rock 14. Well, I hope we have some more races like that, Ralph. That was quite exciting.
It certainly was. It's not often you see something like that.
All right, our next event will be the 50-yard freestyle. Who do we have swimming for North Penn, Ralph?
In lane 4, there will be Tim Kronstan. In lane 2, Steve Pasquill. And in lane 6, Ricky Chalot.
And for Council Rock, in lane 1, we have Chuck Venuto, lane 3, Mark Depew, and in lane 5, Andrew Simone. This is 2 laps, an all-out sprint. Freestylers, drop dead. You look for a great start and a great turn. That's what it's all about, folks. That's Depew out early with Cronston. Depew and Cronston. We got a 3-way race between lane 2, 3, and 4. Pasquale, Cronston, and Depew. It looks like Depew with the slight edge early. Pasquale, it's too tough to tell. And finishing first in lane 2, Steve Pasquale for the Knights with a time of 23.45. In second place for Council Rock was Mark Depew with a time of 23.58. Out in lane 6, finishing third for the Knights, was Ricky Shillo with a time of 23.66. In lane 4, Tim Cronston finished fourth with a time of 23.80. In lane 5 for Council Rock, Andrew Simone finished fifth with a time of 24.73. And finishing sixth in lane 1 for Council Rock was Chuck Venuto with a time of 25.53. Once again, Ralph, quite a race.
Yes, this was another race where it wasn't too typical of a North Penn race. They were neck and neck, many of them side by side for most of the race.
Okay, and we'll wait a little bit first. We should have a score before we break to diving. 1 sec, folks. And our unofficial score as we enter diving, the North Penn Knights 43 and the Council Rock Indians 19. North Penn television coverage of the swimming meet between the North Penn Knights and the Council Rock Indians will return in a moment with our diving portion of this afternoon's meet.
With the waters, brings the rain that feeds the land. The land gives the water boundaries, the animals a home. The animals, they keep the land from being lonely, fill the air with song. All life dances together.
In a world so connected, choosing one environmental cause can be hard.
All life sings together.
Now there's EarthShare, 40 of the world's most respected environmental charities working under one name. To find out how you and your company can help, call 1-800-MyShare.
All life lives, or doesn't, together.
When Raymond was 6, I was afraid to take him to the playground because they were doing drugs. When he was 10, I couldn't let him play ball in the schoolyard because of the gangs. When he was 15, I wouldn't let him go to any dances because there could be a fight or a shooting. Now he's a man, and I realize he's never been a kid.
Give your children back their childhood. Do something now. Call 1-800-WE-PREVENT. Together, we will take a bite out of crime.
Gee, Vince, what kind of dummy wouldn't know how to use a child safety seat?
Beats me, lads. Child's play.
You just buckle him in.
Unless he's over 20 pounds.
Then this one's good.
Except if he's over 40 pounds.
Then you're into this kind of rig.
What if he outgrows that?
Put him in a booster seat?
What if he's too big for a booster seat?
Would he use the safety belt?
The Auto Safety Hotline can tell you everything you need to know about keeping your child safe in a car.
I'm a wreck.
Totaled.
You could learn a lot from a dummy. Call 1-800-424-9393.
These children have lost their freedom. It has been taken from them by fear and violence. They are prisoners in their own world, a world that can be deadly. Your kids shouldn't have to grow up this way. Give your children back their childhood. Do something now. Call 1-800-WE-PREVENT. Together, we will take...
Welcome back to North Penn Natatorium for the diving portion of this afternoon's meet. First up for the North Penn Knights will be Joel Nelson doing dive 5111A, a forward dive with a half twist. Joel Nelson for the Knights. Looks like we have a brief delay here as the official's still getting situated. Our order for the diving this afternoon will be Steve Russell for Council Rock will dive second. Diving third, Ryan Hollenbach for North Penn. And there we have Joel's dive. 4, 3.5, 3.5 for Joel. Next up will be Steve Russell for Council Rock. Back to the order, John Staler will dive fourth for Council Rock. Diving fifth for North Penn, state qualifier Steve Bonner. And for Council Rock, diving sixth, Chuck Venuto. Steve Russell, forward dive, half twist, and layout position. Good dive from Steve, a 6, a 5, and a 5.5. Who do we have next, Ralph?
Ryan Hollenbach. He will be doing a dive 5-1-11.
That's a forward dive with a half twist. A lot of height there on Ryan's dive. 4.5 and 2.6 for Ryan. Next up for Council Rock, John Staller. Each diver will do 6 dives this afternoon. Nice dive by Staller. A 5 and 2 5.5s. Next up for the Knights, Steve Bonner. Steve will do dive 5-1-3-2, a forward 1.5 somersault with 1 twist. Ralph, I can't see myself getting up on the board and doing that. Great dive. 2 7.5s and a 6.5, and there you see why Steve Bonner is one of the best divers in the state. Next up for Council Rock, Chuck Venuto. Two 5s and a 5.5 for Chuck. That concludes the first round. Who do we have next, Ralph?
Next we have up Joel Nelson for North Penn. He will be doing dive 401, an inward dive.
Two 5.5s and a 5 for Joel. Steve Russell now with his second dive. Steve will do one somersault with one full twist in free position. Two 6s and a 5.5 for Steve. Next up, we have Ryan Hollenbach, who will do dive 103B, a forward 1.5 somersault. Looks like we have two quality diving cores here this afternoon, Ralph.
Certainly.
Hits that dive well. Six and a half, a 6, and a 6. Next up for Council Rock, John Stoller. A reverse dive by John. 5.5, a 6, and a 6.5.
Next for North Penn, we have Steve Baher. He is doing dive number 105, a forward 2.5 somersault.
2.5 somersaults. Wow, what a dive, Ralph. Two 7.5s and a 6.5 for Steve. Finishing off round 2, Chuck Venuto from Council Rock. Two 6.5s and a 6 for the Council Rock diver to finish off round 2.
Next up for North Penn, we have Joel Nesson doing dive number 104, forward double somersault.
Two 5s and a 5.5 for Joel. Next up for Council Rock, Steve Russell. Two 5.5s and a 6 for Steve.
Next up for North Penn, we have Ryan Hollenbach. Ryan will be doing dive number 105, forward double 2.5 somersault.
Folks, you're really getting a treat this afternoon with these 6 divers. Some quality divers in this pool this afternoon. Three 4.5s for Ryan. Next up for Council Rock, John Stoller. Six, 5.5, and a 5.
Next up for North Penn, we have Steve Boehner. He's doing dive number 305, a reverse 2.5 somersault.
Look at that dive from Bonner, Ralph. Unbelievable. The height he gets is just absolutely amazing. A 6 and 2 5.5s. Next up for Council Rock, Chuck Venuto. This will conclude round number 3. Two and a half somersaults from Chuck. 6 and a half, a 6, and a 5.5. We're halfway through diving.
Next for North Penn is Joel Nelson. He will be doing dive number 203, a back somersault.
Two 5.5s and a 5 for Joel. Next up for Council Rock, Steve Russell. Quite a competitive meet here this afternoon, Ralph. Council Rock's come in and given the Knights something to swim for and dive for. Very nice reverse dive from Steve Russell. Two 5.5s and a 7.
Next for North Penn, we have Ryan Hollenbach. He's doing dive number 403, which is an inward 1.5 somersault.
I have to say, Ralph, when I was a little kid, I always wished I could do dives like this off the diving board at my pool.
Personally, I'd never try them.
Nice dive from Ryan, a little bit over-rotated. Two 5.5s and a 5. Next up, John Stoller for Council Rock. Once again, your score prior to the diving, North Penn 43, Council Rock 19. Came out a little early on that dive, still a quality dive. 2 4s and a 4.5 for John.
Next for North Penn, we have Steve Bonner. He's doing dive number 405, an inward 2.5 somersault.
2.5 somersaults inward. Unbelievable. The height he gets on an inward dive is unbelievable. Pardon me, folks, if I'm a little bit in awe, but this is the first time I've seen Bonner dive. And it's just a pleasure to watch. A 6.5, a 7, and a 7.5 for Bonner. Next up for Council Rock, Chuck Venuto. Chuck with an inward 1.5. A 4.5, a 5, and a 5.5 for Chuck Venuto. Beginning the 5th round for North Penn, Joel Nelson with dive 301, a reverse dive. Five, 5.5, and a 5. Next up, Council Rock, Steve Russell. Russell comes out a little early. And I believe officials have called that a failed dive. Yes, they have. He'll receive all 2s for that dive.
Next, we have Ryan Hollenbach for North Penn. He's doing dive number 203, a back 1.5 somersault.
For those of you who don't know the process, if a diver does not do the dive that's listed on their entry form, that automatically is a failed dive, and they receive 2s from each judge. Ryan over-rotated a little bit there. A 2.5, a 1.5, and a 2.5. Next up, John Stoller for Council Rock. A 5, a 5.5, and a 6 for John.
Next for North Penn, we have Steve Bonner. He's doing dive 5134, which is a forward 1.5 somersault with 2 twists.
A little bit over there, but who am I to criticize after that? 3 6.5s for Steve. Chuck Venuto from Council Rock will finish off the 5th round of diving. I can't help to look ahead here, folks. Steve Bonner on his last dive will attempt a 3.5 somersault dive. I can't wait to see that. Ralph, that had to hurt.
It was definitely.
Chuck came out a little bit early on that back 1.5. Got to applaud him for the effort, though. A 1.5, a 2, and a 2.5 for Chuck.
Next, we have Joel Nelson. It's dive number 303, possibly. The dive is a reverse 1.5 somersault.
It was questionable whether Joel would attempt this dive. It looks like he's going to. A 4, a 3.5, and a 4. Next up, Steve Russell, Council Rock with his final dive. Back dive from Steve. 3 6s for Steve.
Next for North Penn, we have Ryan Hollenbach. He's doing dive 303 of a reverse 1.5 somersault.
Good dive by Ryan. 5, a 5.5, and a 6. Next up, John Stoller from Council Rock. Inward 1.5. 2 4.5s and a 4 for Stoller's last dive. And Ralph, why don't you tell the audience what I've been anxiously awaiting?
Next up for North Penn is Steve Bonner. He's doing dive number 107, which is a forward 3.5 somersault.
This should be something to watch, Ralph. Unbelievable. He landed that, Ralph. Wow. Whew. 5.5, a 6.5, and a 5.5 for Bonner. Finishing off diving this afternoon will be Chuck Venuto from Council Rock, and I wouldn't want to follow that act. And Chuck finishes off our diving round. His scores: a 4, a 5, and a 3.5. That concludes the diving portion of this afternoon's meet for North Penn Television. We'll be back in a bit with the second half of the swim meet.
With the waters, brings the rain that feeds the land. The land gives the water boundaries, the animals a home. The animals, they keep the land from being lonely, fill the air with song. All life dances together.
In a world so connected, choosing one environmental cause can be hard.
All life sings together.
Now there's EarthShare, 40 of the world's most respected environmental charities working under one name. To find out how you and your company can help, call 1-800-MY-SHARE.
All life lives, or doesn't, together.
He protects all living things in the forest. But he can't do it alone. Please don't play with matches. Put out your campfires. And never, ever forget the words of Smokey Bear.
Only you can prevent forest fires.
It may not look like it, but you're watching the future of the Earth pass by. Because many of these products are made from materials you've been recycling. But to keep recycling working, you need to buy products that say, made from recycled materials. For all those next in line, it would mean the world to them.
Wildfire. Over 2 million acres of our forests and rangelands burn each year. Hundreds of homes are destroyed, and it can take over 150,000 firefighters and $1 billion to bring the fires under control. Many of these fires are due to human carelessness, but it only takes one person to prevent it all. Be careful when visiting the wildlands. For more information, contact your local fire protection agency, state forestry office, or the USDA Forest Service.
Welcome back to North Penn High School Natatorium. I'm Mike Schlotterbeck along with Ralph Asher for North Penn Television. We return with the 100-yard butterfly. In lane 4 for North Penn, we have Jim Glancy. In lane 2, Eric Bacocci. And in lane 6, Justin Fanslaw. Now we have the results of the diving. In first place from North Penn is Steve Bonner with a score of 313.90 points. In second place from Council Rock, Chuck Venuto with a score of 195.65. In third place from Council Rock, John Staler with a time of 189.05. And in fourth place from North Penn, Ryan Hollenbach with a score of 181.00. And in 5th place from Council Rock, Steve Russell with a score of 177.05. And in 6th place from North Penn, Joel Nelson with a score of 167.45. Once again, this is the 100-yard butterfly. Our score, North Penn 51, Council Rock 27. Lane assignments for Council Rock in lane 1, Joe Farrell. Lane 3, Bob Carmody. Lane 5, Andrew Simone. Once again for North Penn, Glancy, Bacocci, and Fanslaw. Carmody looks to be an excellent swimmer. If you recall, he's the one that touched out Fleming in the 200-yard individual medley. Carmody out in 25.22 seconds, followed by Glancy in lane 4 from North Penn in 27.77. It's Carmody going to easily win this race. Looks like Glancy should finish second. The race looks to be for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Carmody should have a nice time here. And he does. He finishes with a time of 55.62. In 2nd place for North Penn, Jim Glancy with a time of 58.88. In 3rd place from North Penn, Eric Bacocci with a time of 59.83. In 4th place from North Penn, Justin Fanslaw with a time of 1 minute flat .39. In 5th place from Council Rock in lane 5, Andrew Simone with a time of 102.66. And out in lane 1, finishing in 6th place from Council Rock, Joe Farrell with a time of 104.41. Carmody is a strong swimmer, Ralph, wouldn't you have to say?
Yes, he beat out North Penn, which North Penn is very, very strong. He really has good skills to him. So.
Our next event, the 100-yard freestyle. For North Penn in lane 4, Jeremy Bergman. In lane 2, Dominic Szabo. And in lane 6, Matt Gibson. For Council Rock in lane 1, Tom Coyen. In lane 3, Mark Depew. And in lane 5, Garrett Law. Our score after the 100-yard butterfly, North Penn 60, Council Rock 34. What can we look for in this race, Ralph, the 100-yard freestyle?
Keys to this race are starts and turns, because this is a very, very fast race.
Bergman with the lead. Szabo challenging for 2nd place. Bergman out in 23.46. Szabo in 3rd place with a time of 24.54. It'll be Jeremy Bergman easily cruising to 1st place. Dominic Szabo coming on. He looks like he's going to take 2nd place. Bergman finishes with a nice time of 48.85. Dominic Szabo finishes 2nd with a time of 50.97. And finishing 3rd from North Penn, 4th from North Penn, Matt Gibson with a time of 53.45. The Council Rock swimmer in lane 3 finishing with a time of 51.81, good for 3rd place. The Council Rock swimmer in lane 5 finishing in 5th place with a time of 53.93. And out in lane 6, the other swimmer from Council Rock finishes with a time of 59.47. Good for 6th place. Next up, the 500-yard freestyle. Who do we have swimming for North Penn, Ralph?
In lane 4, we'll have Chris Craig. In lane 2, we have Devin Philibon. And in lane 6, we have Jonathan Fakish.
And for Council Rock, we have Eric Cannell, Andy Kaplan, and Brian Ferretti. Once again, the 500-yard freestyle. Our score, North Penn 72, Council Rock 38. Once again for North Penn, lane 4, Chris Craig, lane 2, Devin Philibom, lane 6, Jonathan Fakish. 500-yard freestyle, 20 laps freestyle. The lane assignments for Council Rock, Eric Kunkel will be in lane 1, Andy Kaplan in lane 3, and Brian Ferretti in lane 5. This is the longest race you'll see in a high school swimming meet. Requires a great deal of endurance. Moving to the college level, you see the swimmers swim the 1,000-yard freestyle and also the 1,650-yard freestyle. This is as long as it gets at the high school arena. Once again, our score, North Penn 72, Council Rock 38. And it's Chris Craig taking out very quickly in lane 4. The rest of the pack following. Anything else we can look for in this race, Ralph?
You want to look for good pacing and concentration by the swimmers. They have to do 20 laps. It's a very long time to be in the pool, so they will also have a swimmer down at the end of the pool with a card keeping track of the number of laps. If you see them pumping the card up and down, that means the swimmer needs to speed up. If they're swinging it side to side, the swimmer needs to slow down to stay on his pace.
I mentioned earlier that North Penn's head coach is Bill Bartle. The assistant coach for the Knights is Brian Fakish, a swimmer here at North Penn High School from 1985 to 1989. Brian also swam at Indiana, University of Pennsylvania, coached at Manufacturers Country Club, and he also coaches the North Penn Aquatic Club. Craig at the 150 mark with a commanding lead. And Philibom and Fakish challenging for second place. Andy Kaplan and Brian Ferretti trying to stay in touch with the leaders. It's Devin Philibom in second place, followed by Fakish. Craig takes his 200 freestyle out in 154.03. Looks strong. For those of you not too familiar with the local swimming scene, the North Penn Knights are the defending state champions and look strong again this year. Potential challengers throughout the state locally could include Haverford High School down in Delaware County. Also up District 11 way, the North Penn Knights recently swam Emmaus, who put up quite a fight. The North Penn Knights swimming exceptionally well in that meet, highlighted by an effort of a 139 in the 200 medley relay and Nikki Zabo's 59 in the 100 breaststroke. Other potential challengers could include also in the Allentown area, Parkland, and out in District 7, the Pittsburgh area, Bethel Park. Craig with almost a full lap lead here. He really looks strong.
Our timer here today is Mr. Rick Carroll. He was the first coach for the North Penn Knights swimming team. He retired from head coach position in 1988 and has handled the timing here at the North Penn Natatorium for over 25 years. He volunteers now as a help out, and he's also a swim teacher.
The announcer this afternoon is Miss Selma Robinson, former head coach of the girls team from 1980 to 1990. Selma's also a North Penn physical education teacher and a former swimmer for Rick Carroll. We shouldn't leave out our official scorer, Miss Sherry Lamphere, a North Penn high school senior, who also is the North Penn Knights swimming team manager. Devin Philibom and Andy Kaplan putting on quite a show here for second place. Chris Craig is pulled away and will finish hopefully under 4:50, definitely under 5 minutes. And actually out in lane 5 and lane 6, Brian Ferretti and Jonathan Fakish putting on a battle for 4th place. So all the swimmers really challenging themselves. That gun signifies the final 2 laps as Craig makes his turn for the finish, the final 2 laps. Really a lot of one-on-one competition in the pool, Ralph. We have 2 little races within themselves here. Looks like Craig may go under 450. He looks awfully strong as he finishes here. And he finishes with a fantastic time of 4:49.56. A great swim by Chris Craig. Now we have the battle for 2nd place between Philibom and Kaplan. This should come down to the wire. Philibom with a slight lead. Let's see who can put their head down and finish the race. And it's Andy Kaplan from Council Rock finishing with a time of 5:13.57, who nudges out Philibom, who finished with a time of 5:13.75. Finishing in 4th place for the Knights, out in lane 6 with Jonathan Fakish with a time of 5:19.77. And in 5th place from Council Rock was Brian Ferretti with a time of 5:21.86. And finishing his race now is Eric Kunkel from Council Rock. Fantastic swim from Chris Craig, and the other 4 swimmers really put on quite a show for 2nd place and 4th place. We'll have the score for you momentarily. And our score after the 500-yard freestyle, North Penn 83, Council Rock 43, and the Knights have taken their usual commanding lead now. Not without a fight, though. Our next event, the 200-yard freestyle relay. For North Penn in lane 1, we have Tim Cronston, Steve Pasquale, Ricky Shillow, and Jeremy Bergman. In lane 2, for North Penn, Matt Gibson, Justin Fanslaw, Jim Thompson, and Jim Glancy. And in lane 6, Devin Philibom, Steve Philibom, Steve Miller, and Justin Kratz. Each swimmer will do 2 laps of freestyle. The Council Rock A team will be in lane 3, the B team in lane 1, and the C team in lane 5. Once again, your score, North Penn 83, Council Rock 43. What can we look for in this race, Ralph?
This race is a 200 free relay, which means each swimmer will swim 2 laps, because there's a total of 8 laps. So the swimmers have to be fast off the blocks and have a good speed.
This is as fast as it gets in high school swimming relay-wise. We have a change of order in lane 6 for North Penn. First will be Steve Philibom, second Steve Miller, third Justin Kratz, and Devin Philibom will go 4th. Philibom, having just completed the 500 freestyle, will move back a bit and anchor that relay. It's Cronston in lane 4 with a slight lead for the Knights. Gibson in lane 2 in 2nd place for the Knights. Could we look at a sweep here for the Knights? Pasquale and Fanslaw hit the water 1-2 for the Knights. Cronston split at 23.79. It's Steve Pasquale taking charge for the North Penn Knights in lane 4. Fanslaw maintains the 2nd place for North Penn, and Council Rock holds 3rd place in lane 3. This will be Jim Glancy up in lane 2 for North Penn, and Ricky Shillow hits the water in lane 4 on the 3rd leg. Could be a 1-2 sweep for the evening here. Jeremy Bergman will anchor the relay in lane 4 for North Penn. Looks like Jim Thompson will anchor the Knights in lane 2. Bergman looking smooth. The Knights should win this one easily. And it doesn't look like we'll have much of a race for second place. Should be a 1-2 sweep for the Knights. And Bergman hits the wall first. That relay finishes with a time of 1:32.48. The relay in lane 2 finishes second for the Knights, a 1-2 finish. Their time of 1:36.29. Council Rock finishes third in lane 3 with a time of 1:39.60. Finishing fourth also Council Rock with a time of 1:47.22, narrowly touching out the team from North Penn in lane 6, who finished fifth with a time of 1:47.52, and finishing sixth out in lane 1 from Council Rock, the C team finishing with a time of 1:54.34. Our next event will be the 100-yard backstroke. Our score, the North Penn Knights, 95. The Council Rock Indians, 45. Who do we have swimming in this event for North Penn, Ralph?
For North Penn, in lane 4, we'll have Steve Fleming. In lane 2, we'll have Ricky Shalal. And in lane 6, we will have Steve Pasquala.
And for Council Rock, in lane 1, we have Tony Hoffman. Lane 3, Jim Minolta. And in lane 5, Eric Kunkel for the Indians. Fleming recently turned in a performance of 53 point in the backstroke, one of the top performances in District 1 this year. Four laps of backstroke. Swimmers in this race in the Pennsylvania Interscholastic Athletic Association have the option of starting from a stand-up position or from an in-the-water position. And it's Fleming out early in lane 4. Minolta in lane 3, narrowly in second place. Shillow should give him a battle. Also Pasquale, don't leave him out in lane 6. Pasquale actually looks like he may be in second place. Fleming out in the time of 26.14. He looks strong. Minolta and Pasquale battling for second place. Looks like Pasquale has a slight lead, but not much. Fleming looking strong as he finishes the race. Should be quite a time. Another 53 for Steve Fleming, a 53.65, quite a swim. Looks like Pasquale's gonna nudge in there for second. No, touched out by Jim Minolta. Minolta finishes with a time of 1:02.47, narrowly touching out Pasquale, who finishes with a time of 1:02.65. Shillow in lane 2 finishes fourth with a time of 1:05.73, finishing fifth for Council Rock. In lane 5, Eric Kunkel with a time of 1:08.7, and finishing sixth for Council Rock, Tony Hoffman with a time of 1:09.82. Tony was in lane 1. Fleming looked good there, Ralph.
Yep, certainly. Most North Penn swimmers would really go well in all of their sports. He, once again, showed the superiority of North Penn swimmers to all the other teams.
Next up, we have the 100-yard breaststroke, 4 laps. Who do we have swimming for North Penn, Ralph?
In lane 4, we have Dominic Zabo. In lane 2, we have Tim Kronstein. And in lane 6, we have Chris Hutchins.
And for Council Rock in lane 1, Nick Copland. In lane 3, Mark Casilia. And in lane 5, Brian Ferretti. Our unofficial score after the 100-yard backstroke, North Penn 106, Council Rock 50. You're about to see one of the top breaststrokers in District 1 in Dominic Zabo, who recently broke the minute for the first time in his career. Quite a barrier for a breaststroker. Look for the strong pullouts from Dominic, as breaststrokers are allowed 1 pull and 1 kick under the water as you see him surface well past half the pool. Casilia in lane 3 looks like he may give him a challenge. Cronston looks strong in lane 2. Zabo begins to pull away. Casilia hanging tough, though, in lane 3. Zabo out in 29.4. It's Dominic Zabo leading the way here in the 100-yard breaststroke. Casilia, though, not losing touch with Zabo, and Cronston as well. It's Dominic Zabo from North Penn, Mark Casilia from Council Rock, and Tim Cronston in 3rd place for the Knights, followed by Chris Houchins. Dominic Zabo looking strong here. Not going to break a minute today, but he still looks strong. A 102.29 for Dominic Zabo. Not a bad swim at all. Mark Casilia finishes 2nd for Rock with a time of 105.79. Cronston finishes 3rd for North Penn with a time of 105.15. Couchins for North Penn finishes 4th with a time of 110.93. Finishing 5th for Council Rock, Brian Ferretti with a time of 114.10. And finishing 6th for Council Rock, Nick Copland with a time of 119.79. That makes our score entering the final event, the 400-yard freestyle relay, the North Penn Knights 117, Council Rock 55. Our final event this afternoon is the 400-yard freestyle relay. Each swimmer swims 4 legs of freestyle. In lane 4 for North Penn, Chris Craig leading off, followed by Steve Fleming, Dominic Zabo, and Jeremy Bergman. In lane 2, Justin Fanslaw, Jim Glancy, Matt Gibson, and Eric Bacocci in that order. Leading off in lane 6 for the Knights, Ryan McGrath, followed by Steve Philibom, Lee Rappaport, and Chuck McGee. This is the 400 freestyle relay. Council Rock's A team will be in lane 3, B team in lane 5, and C team in lane 1. I hope you've had an enjoyable afternoon, folks. The Knights beginning to hit the home stretch as they approach the Suburban 1 Championships and the District 1 Championships. The District 1 Championship and the PIAA Championship being their goal traditionally. And I definitely think that's a realistic goal once again this year with the talent found on this team. Ralph, you'd have to say the Indians did give them some good races, though.
Yes, this was not a typical meet for North Penn. They had a lot of good competition, and in many meets were beaten out by Council Rock. But I hope this race will continue to see North Penn dominate, as they always do.
And we'll wait for the starter. This is the type of meet, folks, that'll prepare the Knights for their championship, so it's not necessarily a bad thing to have some competition every now and then, that is. We have received word from the scoring table that there have been some changes made, so folks, the order that we announced may be a bit different than we thought at first, so bear with us. We're not even going to try to hit the names, folks, as we're having a tough time figuring out who's who. There's been numerous changes made by Coach Bill Bartle. All we do know is that North Penn is leading and also is in 2nd place. Our score once again, North Penn 117, Council Rock 55. And it's North Penn's team in lane 2 actually with the lead at time of 55.03, followed by the teams in lane 3 and 4 with times of 55.04. Can't get much closer than that, folks. We've got quite a race on our hands here, Ralph.
Yeah, this is turning out to be another one of those races where North Penn and Council Rock are ending up neck and neck.
I think Coach Bartle's mixed it up a little bit, maybe to give the Knights a little bit more competition. Council Rock taking a little bit of a lead here. We approach our third leg. Council Rock still with a slight lead over the team from North Penn in lane 2. Around a 51 or a 52 for the North Penn swimmer in lane 2. Their first 2 legs, a 147.32. North Penn's team in lane 2 taking a slight lead, but it's going to be very close. Should come down to the end here. A close race, just what we need to conclude an afternoon of high school swimming. It's North Penn forging ahead now as we enter the anchor legs. That's lane 2. North Penn still holds the lead. And we have a race on our hands, folks, as the Council Rock swimmer in lane 3 comes on. Let's see if the North Penn swimmer can hold on. They hold a slight lead in lane 2. It's going to come down to the finish here. Quite a race to end our afternoon. It's North Penn and Council Rock neck and neck. And the Knights finish first with a time of 3:32.07 to cap off a fantastic afternoon for the North Penn Knights. We just received word that was Eric Bacocci on the anchor leg for the Knights with that fantastic swim. Council Rock finished second with a time of 3:32.20, just 0.13 of a second behind the Knights. Finishing third in lane 4 for the Knights with a time of 3:49.63 was the B team, and out in lane 6, the North Penn C team finished fourth with a time of 3:55.84. And the Council Rock teams finished 5th and 6th. The team in lane 5 finishing 5th with a time of 4:04.26, and the team in lane 1 finishing 6th with a time of 4:13.66. That makes our final score this afternoon. The North Penn Knights 127, the Council Rock Indians 59. Ralph, it's been an enjoyable afternoon.
Yes, it certainly. This was not a typical meet for North Penn. They had a lot of competition. They did real well, and they still managed to pull through. They're very ready for all their upcoming competitions.
Once again, the Suburban 1 Conference Championships will be held February 14th at Central Bucks East High School, and the District 1 Championships February 28th at the University of Pennsylvania, followed by the Pennsylvania Interscholastic Athletic Association State Championships held at Penn State University the weekend of March 13th and 14th. Once again, your score from the North Penn Natatorium, the North Penn Knights 127, the Council Rock Indians 59. For Ralph Asher, I'm Mike Schlotterbeck for North Penn Television. We'll see you soon.